other metric that you could use to go 10x with. But you take that and you multiply it by 10x. And we're going to go through this little process where you say, all right, here's where we are now, and we're going to take this thing 10x. And you might say, well, why not? Why would you not do 2x? Well, 2x is actually harder than 10x. It's too hard. Because when you do something 2x, you're tempted to just work harder. You're tempted to try to kind of look within yourself to try to kind of figure it out. You're going to try to connect the dots to make it happen. So it's easier to think 10x because you cannot do that. We cannot do that ourselves. So so using that logic, why would you not just say, well, let's just do 100x then? Well, 100x is too big. It's not, you can't get your head around that at all. And so it's just too unrealistic. So why 10x? In the world of product innovation, there's this principle that if a product is 10x better than an existing product, it will, by definition, disrupt the existing product. If a product is only 2x better, if there's a lot of brand loyalty with the existing product, it might not disrupt. But if it's 10x better, it will, by definition, disrupt that product. So what we want to do by going 10x is we want to disrupt ourselves, right? We want to have to get outside of our headspace to figure out how to get 10x. In the early days of starting our company, it's easy to think about playing with an infinite mindset because when you start a company, you may have no resources, and you've got to play the game to stay in the game. If you don't play the game to stay in the game, you're probably not going to survive. And so when we started our company, we had an opportunity to look at a large automotive contract. We managed to get that contract using basically a PowerPoint presentation with Mercedes to show how we were going to make a part for their seatbelt system. The only problem was we didn't have machine tools, we didn't have a facility, we didn't have employees, and we didn't have a stamping capability that was required to make this part. But that was actually, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was to our advantage because it forced us to get outside of our capabilities to figure out how we were going to get this project done. We didn't tell the customer that we didn't have all that. We just said, we'll get it done. And I kind of almost cautious to say that in front of all my customers out here because it's like, what else is he not telling me? But we continued to grow the company with that. We 10x'd it in about 7 years. We continued to grow, and that's when I came across this process with a business coach who showed us that said, look, if you'll go through this template process, this helps you get out, outside of yourself. And one of the things I've had to learn since starting our company was I try to do everything myself, and then you try to delegate, and you hire other people, and sometimes you don't make the right hires, and you just kind of get caught up in this whirlwind, and so it's very difficult to keep your head above. And he said, you really have to get out of your own headspace to really make this happen. And in fact, Matt Reed works for us as a director of engineering. He doesn't give out many compliments, but I took this one as a compliment one time. He said, Jeff's finally figured out how to get out of his own way. And so there's a lot of truth to us knowing how to get out of our own way so that we can make things happen. So we just actually went through this process this last year with our team, sitting around and said, all right, we're going to 10x this thing. And there just happened to be 10 people in the room. I said, look, guys, if we go 10x, each person in the room is going to have to be responsible for a division that's as large as where we are as the entire company. And so that's kind of, I'm trying to empower people to think, how are we going to do that? It's really about establishing a bigger future. And when you're my age, at my season in life, it's really important that I don't start thinking about tapering off if I'm continuing to lead my business. I've got to continuing to push us for exponential growth. And so that's part of why this process is the way it is. It's pushing for the bigger future, because as soon as I start tapering off, then my past becomes bigger than my future, and that's not a good place to be when we're trying to lead a company. Quickly, I'm not going to go through the template, but this is the template that we actually use to go through. You define a starting year and an ending year, and you kind of develop it. You divide it up into 5 stages, and you identify key changes that need to happen. You ask, well, what timeline do you use to 10x your company? I said, well, if you have an infinite mindset, You know, it doesn't really matter. But if you were to use 15 years, that would be somewhere between 15 and 18% growth for consistently 15 years. You say, well, I can't do that every year. Well, I know you can't do it every year. We've not done it every year. But one good principle to remember is I learned from a famous goal-setting author, Brian Tracy. He said, we can always do less in 1 year than we think we can, but we can always do more in 5 years than we think we can. So you don't necessarily get a certain specific level of progression every year, but when you think in chunks of what capabilities have to happen, then you can do that. One of the things we do is we go backwards through the process first, and we look at where we are now, and we look at where we've come from, because some of us have a hard time thinking that we can go 10x, but if we think backwards, we know that we've 10x'd where we were at one point, right? We've grown our knowledge, our physical capability, our mental capabilities 10x. It's really more about finding the who's, not how to get something done, and that's the difference in this and delegation. We typically delegate down, but we who up, and we try to find people perhaps outside of our company, strategic suppliers, people that we can partner with. We lean on our machine tool guys, we lean on our cutting tool guys, our suppliers to help us leverage their capabilities to help us stay on the cutting edge. We don't have time, at the rate of change is happening, we don't have time to make that happen inside of our company. So the key is teamwork and technology. To sum it up, exponential change is here. It's here as of 2007, really. It started before then, but in 2007, there were so many things that happened to empower us to make exponential improvements in the way we run our business and to engage our customers in ways that we've never engaged them before. I want to close. All right, I am out of time, so I'll close with that. And I do appreciate you letting me have this chance to share with the industry. Let's go have a great conference. Thank you.
Thanks, man. That was awesome.